Hi and welcome. We're going to be reading a Christmas story for you for this Christmas season. This is Christmas Day in the Morning by Pearl Buck, and I have my girls here with me. This is all my girls, that's right. This is Elise, this is Greta.
And that's our dog Sunny.
And this is our dog Sunny, that's right. So here we go. He waked suddenly and completely. It was 4 o'clock. The hour at which his father had always called him to get up and help with the milking. Strange how the habits of his youth clung to him still. 50 years ago, and his father had been dead for 30, and yet he waked at 4 o'clock in the morning. He had trained himself to turn over and go to sleep, but this morning, because it was Christmas, he didn't try to sleep. He slipped back in time, as he did so easily nowadays. He was 15 years old, and still on his father's farm. He loved his father. He had not known it until one day, a few days before Christmas, when he overheard what his father was saying to his mother. "Mary, I hate to call Rob in the mornings. He's growing so fast. He needs his sleep. If you could see how he sleeps when I go to wake him up, I wish I could manage alone." "Well, you can't, Adam," his mother's voice was brisk. "Besides, he's not a child anymore. It's time he took his turn." "Yes," his father said slowly, "but I sure do hate to wake him." When he heard these words, something in him woke. His father really did love him. He had never thought of it before, just taking for granted the tie of their blood. Neither his father nor his mother talked about loving their children. They had no time for such things. There was always so much to do on the farm. Now that he knew his father loved him, there would be no more loitering in the mornings, having to be called again. He got up after that, stumbling with sleep, and pulled on his clothes, his eyes tight shut. But he got up. And then on the night before Christmas, that year when he was 15, he lay for a few minutes thinking about the next day. They were poor. Most of the excitement was in the turkey they had raised themselves, and in the mince pie his mother's made. His sisters sewed presents. His mother and father always bought something he needed, not only a warm jacket, maybe, but something more like a book. And he saved, and he bought them each something too. He wished that Christmas, when he was 15, he had a better present for his father. As usual, he had gone to the 10-cent store and bought a tie. It had seemed nice enough until he lay thinking the night before Christmas. And then he wished that he had heard his father and mother talking in time for him to save for something better. He lay on his side, his head supported by his elbow, and he looked out the attic window. The stars were bright, much brighter than he ever remembered seeing them, and one was so bright he wondered if it were really the Star of Bethlehem. "Dad," he said once when he was a little boy, "what is a stable?" "Well, it's just a barn," his father replied, "like ours." Then Jesus was born in a barn, and to a barn the shepherds and the wise men had come, bringing their Christmas gifts, he said. The thought struck him like a silver dagger. Why should he not give his father a special gift too, out there in the barn? He could get up early, earlier than 4 o'clock, and he could creep into the barn and get all the milking done. He'd do it alone. He'd milk, he'd clean up, and then when his father went in to start the milking, he'd see it all done, and he would know who had done it. At 2:45, he got up and he put out his clothes. He crept downstairs, careful of the creaky boards, and he let himself out. The big star hung lower over the barn roof, a reddish gold. The cows looked at him, sleepy and surprised. "So, boss," he whispered. They accepted him placidly, and he fetched some hay for each cow and then got the milking pail and the big milk cans. He had never milked all alone before, but it seemed almost easy. He kept thinking about his father's surprise. His father would come in and call him, saying that he'd get things started while Rob was getting dressed. He'd go to the barn, he'd open the door, and then he'd go to get the 2 big empty milk cans. But they wouldn't be waiting or empty. They'd be standing in the milk house, already filled. The task went more easily than he'd ever known it to before. Milking for once wasn't a chore. It was something else. It was a gift to his father who loved him. He finished. The 2 milk cans were full, and he covered them and closed the milk house door carefully, making sure of the latch. He put the stool in its place by the door and hung up the clean milk pail. And then he went out of the barn and barred the doors behind him. And turn the page. Back in his room, he had only a minute to pull off his clothes in the darkness and jump into bed, for he heard his father was up. He put the covers over his head to silence his quick breathing. The door opened. "Rob," his father called. "We have to get up, son, even if it is Christmas." "All right," he said sleepily. "I'll go on out," his father said. "I'll get things started." The door closed and he lay still, laughing to himself. In just a few minutes, his father would know. His dancing heart was ready to jump from his body. The minutes were endless. 10, 15, he didn't know how many. And he heard his father's footsteps again. The door opened and he lay still. "Rob." "Yes, Dad?" His father was laughing, a queer sobbing sort of a laugh. "Thought you'd fool me, did you?" His father was standing beside his bed, feeling for him, pulling away the covers. "Well, it's Christmas Day, Dad." He found his father and clutched him in a great hug. He felt his father's arms go around him. It was dark. They couldn't even see each other's faces. "Son, I thank you. Nobody ever did a nicer thing." Dad, I want you to know I do want to be good." And the words broke from him of their own will. He didn't know what to say. His heart was bursting with love. "Well, I reckon I can go back to bed and sleep," his father said after a moment. "No, hark." Well, the little ones had woken up. "Come to think of it, son, I've never seen you children when you first saw the Christmas tree. I was always out in the barn. Come on." So he got up and he pulled on his clothes again, and they went down to the Christmas tree. And soon the sun was creeping up to where the star had been. Oh, what a Christmas, and how his heart had nearly burst again with shyness and pride as his father told his mother and made the younger children listen to how he, Rob, had gotten up all by himself. "The best Christmas gift I ever had, and I'll remember it, son, every year on Christmas morning as long as I live." They had both remembered it. And now that his father was long dead, he remembered it alone. That blessed Christmas dawn, when alone with the cows in the barn, he had made his first gift of true love. The end. Did you like that story? Yeah? What do you think? Yeah? What kind of gift did he give his dad?
By milking his cows earlier in the morning, so his dad didn't have to.
Yeah. He gave him that gift, huh? That's not the kind of gift you would normally think to give somebody, is it? No. And why do you think he gave it to him on Christmas?
Because Christmas is a time of giving, and it's a time of loving.
Of loving, that's right.
And so he gave it to his dad because it was just Christmas and he wanted to give something.
Yeah, that's right, because remember, God loved us so much. God loved us so much that he gave his son to us, right? And that was his gift to the world. And so this is why we give gifts to each other.